Hi, everybody, and good morning. This is Jeff Delta with Convergence Training, back with one of our semi-regular podcast, webcast, audiocast series. And today we're in the world of mining and mining safety. We have a special and cool guest, somebody I met at the recent MSHA TRAM conference, and that's Jonisha Pollard. Jonisha is the Musculoskeletal Disorders Prevention Team Leader with NIOSH Mining and the CDC. She's part of the Workplace Health Branch and the Pittsburgh Mining Research Division. So we're excited to have her. We appreciate I really learned a lot at her presentation recently at MSHA TRAM, and it was really excited that she agreed to do this with us as well. So with that, let me say thanks and hello to Jonisha. And Jonisha, thanks for coming on today. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing well. It's dark, cold, and early here. I'm up on Pittsburgh time.
It's cold, but not too dark here.
Yeah, it's probably colder there. Well, I wondered if you could tell us before we get going into the meat of this discussion, which will be about some ergonomic issues in mining, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about NIOSH Mining.
Oh, sure. So I'm Jonisha Pollard. I have a bachelor's as well as a master's degree in biomechanical engineering from the University of Pittsburgh. I joined NIOSH when I was working on my master's thesis, and I worked on a project aimed at reducing knee injury in mining. Then I became a full-time employee. I also became a certified professional ergonomist, and I'm now the leader of musculoskeletal disorder prevention team. So here at NIOSH Training Program, our mission is really to eliminate mining fatalities, injuries, as well as illnesses through relevant research and impactful solutions. We have research centers located in Spokane, Washington, as well as Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and really work together to attack a lot of the really top causes of mine injuries and illnesses, as well as fatalities.
All right, cool. Well, thanks to you and everybody on your team doing good work then with that. So we're going to talk about some ergonomic issues in mining, and I wonder if you could start by telling us what ergonomics is.
Okay, so ergonomics is a scientific study of human interaction with the work environment. And the overall goal is really to reduce work-related injury by adapting the work to fit people. What I like to say is ergonomics is basically making a job for the person instead of expecting the person to tell themselves a job. So the biggest thing is that ergonomics not only considers our physical capabilities, but it also considers mental capabilities and fatigue and tiredness and things like that as well.
All right. And then if we're going to talk about, you're the Musculoskeletal Disorders Prevention Team Leader. We're going to be talking in particular, I believe, about some musculoskeletal disorders or MSDs. Mm-hmm. And maybe you could explain to us what those are as well before we start zeroing in.
So MSD is basically an injury, disorder, or even pain. Because a lot of time we feel pain and we don't think we're, but that's our body's first way of telling us, something's happening. Mm-hmm. So it affects our body's movement system. So our joints, our ligaments, our muscles, our nerves, as well as our tendons. So any type of injury or pain or disorder in those body parts is considered a musculoskeletal disorder.
All right, easy, great. Okay, so what if I'm a miner and I'm working in mining, what are some commonly experienced MSDs or something that I might be likely to experience?
So the most common MSDs in mining is actually low back pain, as well as a shoulder strain, as well as knee sprains. We see a lot of those in mining. I would say those are the top.
I'm sorry, I know the first one was lower back pain. What were the second two again?
Shoulder strains, okay. Knee sprains.
Knee sprain. All right. And so what causes those? If I guess that's one way to not have them is know what's causing them.
Yeah, and it's hard because a lot of things that could potentially cause them. So in mining, a lot of them are actually due to repetitive work activities as well as overexertion. The repetitive work activity is anything using the same muscle groups for a prolonged period. So an example I like to give is if I'm driving a Bobcat and I'm using joysticks, they decide to rotate me to another job, so I'm not doing that job too long. And now I go and I'm filling bags. I'm still using the same muscle groups. So while I may be doing a totally different job, I'm still using the same muscle group. So that's still considered repetitive work activity because that specific muscle group that was highly active in an activity is not getting a rest. Oh. Another thing is any type of overexertion or forceful work. So forceful work is sometimes hard to describe. It could be anything from lifting something very heavy to really torquing a hand tool. That's considered force work. And those are some of the top causes for the minor MSDs that we see. Another one is recovering from a potential slip or trip. So if you've ever, let's say climbed a ladder or went down an incline walkway and you're to slip and you reach out and you grab a handrail, that's one way to get a really bad shoulder strain. So that's another cause that we commonly see is trying to recover from a potential slip or trip event.
I hadn't really thought about the fact that when you're job switching, that doesn't mean you're muscle group switching.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. I mean, job rotation is great for that, but you still need to consider the muscle groups that are active in those jobs and make sure that you're actually in those muscle groups at rest.
Yeah, good call. Okay, cool. Okay, so if those are some common causes of MSDs, could you maybe tell us a little bit more about ergonomic risk factors in mining in general?
Okay, so the 4 main ergonomic risk factors, and I already talked a little bit about the repetitive work as well as the physical work.
Yeah.
That other one would be awkward posture. And, pretty much any posture can be bad. Even if you're standing in perfect posture, if you do it for too long, then it becomes a static posture, which is bad. And then we talk a lot about awkward posture, which bending or twisting and leaning. One of the biggest ones is working with your shoulders above your head. Working any type of kneeling or stooped or squatting posture. And awkward postures are a problem because we're forcing our body to do work in positions we're not as powerful as we should be. I don't know if you've ever tried to lift up a box standing on knees compared to standing on your feet. Your lifting capacity is really reduced when you're in your knees compared to standing up on your feet. So those are the type of things that we really have to look at for. So the posture that you're utilizing when you're doing the job, it changes how that job affects your body. Another one is vibration. Vibration affects our body in a lot of different ways. Whole body vibration can actually lead to back pain, and we get exposure to whole body vibration through operating equipment, as well as standing on vibrating platforms, things like that. So a lot of mine plants use crushers and screens, and they really do shake quite a bit. So if the operator's compartment isn't physically isolated from that equipment, the operator could actually be exposed to significant level of whole body vibration. Hand-arm vibration is another cause of MSDs, such as using a vibrating hand tool or even holding on to an excessively vibrating steering wheel. That can give us a lot of vibration exposure. Those are really the 4 main ergonomic risk factors.
Okay, great. Okay, so if I'm a miner and I don't want to have these kind of problems, MSDs, what can I do to identify ergonomic hazards at my workplace?
Well, the first thing you can do is just learn what hazards are. It's very important to know exactly what the hazards are in your workplace. And NIOSH has a lot of tools that can help you. Another thing I like to stress is that you shouldn't hurt from work. So anytime you feel there is any type of pain or tightness or fatigue after doing a specific activity, you try to figure out, okay, how was I doing activity? What may have changed? And see if you can figure out what change that would lead to some type of pain or tightness or a potential musculoskeletal disorder coming. We also have an ergonomic audit tool. It's actually an Android application you can download from the Google Play Store. And using the app, you're guided through an ergonomic assessment of your place. So you go through and you answer a series of questions. And what's novel about this is not only do you answer the question, it also gives you remedial recommendations. So it helps you figure, okay, how can I fix this? Or what may have contributed to this hazard being in the workplace? So really education and using available tools is the best thing you can do to help identify these hazards in the place.
Great. And for anybody out there who's listening in and heard some things about NIOSH mining having some cool tools and apps, if you're just listening to the video version of this, if you go out to the Convergence Training blog and find the typed up article version, we're going to include all those helpful links for you as well, so you can use those resources. All right. So if we've now learned how to identify ergonomic hazards, what can miners do at the next step in order to mitigate those ergonomic hazards at work?
So the first thing is try to figure out what may be leading to the ergonomic hazard. For example, we went in an operation and they were manually palletizing these 100-pound bags, but the people who were using them didn't want to pay for the pallets. So instead of using pallets where you can stack up multiple pallets, doing it by hand. And you should never lift anything 100 pounds. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, you should absolutely never lift it above your shoulder height. And then, we asked them, well, why are you doing these 100-pound bags and not using pallets? How is your end user using these bags? Because bulk bags are also an option. So we asked them to find out the end user was just slicing bags open and dumping them in a hopper. So really, they could have been selling it as a bulk bag purchase instead of these 100-pound bags. So, that's not the first solution to everything, but in some situations, you have to figure out, okay, well, why are we in this situation with this type of significant hazard? Another thing you can do to mitigate the injuries is to look at where you're performing the work. So sometimes, we're forcing ourselves to be in these awkward postures and things like that when we can physically move the work somewhere safer to perform it. And always the safest place to work on something is when it's around waist height or knuckle height. So instead of bending over and work on something on the ground, pick it up, sit on something around waist level, and that'll really reduce some of your risk factors. And also choose the right tool for the job is important. Sometimes we see, especially when reviewing the MSH injury data, we see people get injured because they may be using a tool that's convenient instead of the tool that's actually designed the job they're doing. So that's also really important. And ask for help, not just help in doing the job, because we all know when it comes to looking something healthy is heavy, way better with multiple people instead of yourself, but also help redesigning the job to figure out, okay, what can we do to make this a little safer? And a lot of times it's reducing the weight or just move the location of it so you can really change the posture.
Okay, good. So we've learned about MSDs and ergonomics. We've learned about some of the common risk factors. We've learned some ways to identify hazards and how to mitigate them. But we've already hinted that NIOSH Mining has a lot of resources to help people with this. Maybe could you tell us more about the resources you have available to help people with these issues?
Yeah, so we have a lot of not only tools, but also guidance and training documents because, educated workforce, safe workforce. All our material is free. You can download it from our website, which is www.cdc.gov/NIOSH/mining. And like you said, I'm really glad you'll be making that available to your reso. We also have the Ergonomics app, which I mentioned, was one of my favorite tools, along with this very small tool called the Risk Factor Report Card. It's just a card that you print out and leave it in different places around the mine site. Ideally, leave it somewhere or print it and have a little box. So what that does is it's a great way for everyone to get engaged. They fill out the form, they identify potential ergonomic risk factors they found in the environment, they tell where it would affect your body, and then they can give you ideas for redesign or change and things like that. And it's a great way to make a competition or a lottery. You put them out, the person that submits the most, may win a prize, or, based on who submits it, they may pull one from a hat and you made a small prize or token or something like that. But it really is a great way to get people engaged. And that's a part of our ergonomic risk factor awareness training for miners. But there are a lot of tools. There's training products. We started to do a lot of infographics this year. So they're just one-page flyers. You can download them and print them out poster size if you want, or you can print them standard 8.5 by 11 paper, hang them in different places. And that affects MSDs as well as slip trip falls, which is another thing we're researching right now. So, we have a lot of information and a lot of tools, all free, and easily downloaded from our webpage.
All right, great. And I have two quick follow-ups, or I guess a follow-up point and then a follow-up question. For those, we definitely encourage you to go check out the webpage, but I happen to also follow you guys on definitely on Twitter and I think on LinkedIn. So if anybody wants to follow NIOSH Mining at Twitter and or LinkedIn, I recommend that. There's a lot of good information there.
Yeah.
That was my follow-up point. And then a follow-up question. You referred a couple times to directly talking with employers about what's the point of doing this? So in addition to these web-based tools and resources you have, how often is NIOSH Mining going out in the field, talking with workers and employers, and what's that process and procedure like?
We are in the field all the time. So pretty much any given day, there's someone from NIOSH Mining out in the field. Right now, I have 2 people from my team at a sand mine for a full week. Other branches have people all over. Our research program spans pretty much all areas of mining, from dust to toxic substances, ventilation, fires and explosion. What we're doing, MSD prevention, also noise and hearing conservation, electrical and mechanical system safety, ground control, heat exhaustion. We have a very wide program. We're touching, pretty much every aspect of mining, health, and safety.
And how does that happen? Is that something that a mining employer requests, or do you show up one day, or how does that, what brings you out to Workplace Y?
So we do research programs. So as part of our research projects, we go to a lot of different mine sites, and that's where we learn about the issues, learn how things are done, and that's where we generate our recommendations. So that's pretty much how we get to the mine sites. We really depend on miners being willing to let us come. We don't force our way to any mine site. We don't show up and say, we're NIOSH, we're here. We say, hey, we're working on this project. Would you like to partner with us? Because it really is a partnership. We're learning. We're hoping to give back to the mines too. And I mean, it's just a collaboration, and that's what we do when we go to the mine sites.
All right, cool. Sounds good. Yeah, I just did an interview with somebody similar, the coordinator of an OSHA Sharpen BPP program out in Oregon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All right, well, cool. So with that, a lot of questions, a lot of stuff we learned about MSDs and ergonomics in the mining world, identifying and mitigating risks. Was there anything about NIOSH mining or ergonomics or MSDs that I should have asked or that I didn't, or anything that comes to mind, or any wonderful concluding thought you have for us?
No, I think I touched on pretty much our research program. By no means is NIOSH mining just MSDs. So it really is important to learn about a lot of the other things that we do. And I really thank you for giving me this opportunity to tell you a little bit about MSDs and a little bit about mining and ergo and the things we're doing here. So thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you. We're really excited to have you, and we appreciate you taking the time. And what's I guess in concluding, what's next for you? What's your next big project?
So right now we're wrapping up a project on slip, trip, and fall prevention for mining. As part of that project, we looked at miners' wear on the outsole of their boots. So we gave them new boots, and over time, been tracking how that sole has been worn away. So forward to that information coming up pretty soon. Also looked at safety during ingress and egress. So we have a few publications on mobile equipment ingress, egress. Specifically, we have a really nice web tool looking at design safe mobile equipment parking areas, because we found that a lot of injuries are actually during ingress and egress. So there are things you can do to make that a lot more safe for mine works. And right now we just started a project on manual materials handling. So as part of that project, looking at developing a web page will serve as, the house for all things mining and manual materials handling. We're also looking at hand and finger injuries, because very common doing manual materials handling and mining. And we'll be looking at exoskeletons and how they can potentially help us with these tasks that seem to be associated with a lot of shoulder, specifically overexertion injuries in mining. So it's all coming up within the next few years, and we're really excited to get started. Also look for mines to partner with us. So if anyone has interest, please contact me.
Okay, great. And we'll make sure people know how to contact you in the article. All interesting. And then you really caught my interest there at the end. So for those who aren't familiar, can you tell people out there what an exoskeleton is?
Sure. So an exoskeleton does not make you RoboCop. It really is a tool that's designed to augment and supplement the physical capability of the human. So exoskeletons have been used for years now, but they're really starting to take their way into industry, specifically the active exoskeleton as compared to the passive ones. So there's if you Google exoskeleton, you'll see a lot of different things. Some things are just as simple as being a sit-stand stool. Other things you have to fully get inside and move around in. So we don't know what that may look like for mining, and we still don't know the constraints that would be imposed on the type of system for mining. But now is an ideal time for us to figure out if there are mining specific activities that will be amenable to exoskeletons and see if there's already a match in the market.
Well, I look forward to all that and that in particular. All right, well, Jonisha, thank you again. Everybody out there, this is Jonisha Pollard. Let me make sure I got her title right again. Top of the page. She is the Musculoskeletal Disorders Prevention Team Leader with NIOSH Mining and the CDC, the Workplace Health Branch in the Pittsburgh Mining Research Division. We thank Jonisha for her time. We definitely encourage you to check out their website and all the free resources and the research they've done and are in the process of doing. So again, thank you very much for everybody. Thanks to Jonisha. Jonisha, I'm going to pause, and I'll see you on the other side of the pause button. And thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
You bet.